At 2 o'clock in the morning, Tehran time, the northern sky above Iran's capital suddenly lit up. The rumbling sound echoed for miles, and thick columns of smoke rose from the base of the Alborz Mountains. The escalation not only failed to cool down but flared up more fiercely than ever before. Israel continued to demonstrate its strength and determination in the largest-scale operation ever conducted deep inside Iranian territory. And the results achieved have exceeded all expectations. The first explosion occurred at a heavily secured complex, suspected to be an underground command bunker for special forces located deep within the mountain. This site had long been considered impenetrable. However, what happened proved otherwise. Remote footage captured a series of consecutive blasts with immense destructive power, shaking the entire surrounding area. Shortly afterward, international news reports confirmed that the targeted site was directly linked to the command and strategic coordination network of Iran's armed forces. At the same time, in downtown Tehran, an event shocked the entire world. While a news anchor was confidently speaking live on national television, the signal suddenly cut out. Moments later, the entire broadcasting building was engulfed in smoke and flames. Israel confirmed that they had carried out a precise strike on the broadcasting headquarters, considered a media symbol of the country. The Israeli Air Force didn't stop at just 2 strike points. Within a matter of hours, a series of other facilities, from storage depots and radar stations to locations believed to be hideouts for operational command units, were all hit one after another. And the most notable thing, there was no interception response from Iran's air defense system. Long-range Hermes drones roamed freely over the skies of Tehran, gathering data, pinpointing targets, and coordinating attacks as if the entire airspace belonged to a different force altogether. This is not just a preemptive strike, this is how Israel sends a clear message. There are no longer any safe boundaries in this confrontation. Before the international community could react, more reports came in. Israeli forces are said to have carried out dozens of additional airstrikes that same night, targeting supply routes, equipment staging areas, and underground communication networks. Meanwhile, Iran has yet to make an official statement. However, signals from social media, videos from local residents, and satellite images are enough to confirm that this is not a single attack. It marks the beginning of a prolonged campaign with a scale and objectives unprecedented in the modern history of the region. Immediately after gaining air superiority, Israel wasted no time. A series of coordinated operations were launched, targeting the command system directly, from military coordination centers to key figures holding central roles in Iran's strategic apparatus. The result, a shocking, extensive list. In less than 72 hours, the Israel Defense Forces confirmed the elimination of numerous key figures within the opposing special forces. This included the Chief of Staff, the Special Forces Commander, the Air Force Leader, and the Intelligence Director, individuals believed to be directly responsible for overseeing operations in the Middle East. With the support of drones and precision airstrikes, many locations thought to be temporary residences or emergency meeting points of these officials were swiftly targeted. Not limiting itself to military leadership, Israel has expanded its campaign to target Iran's high-tech research network. A series of nuclear scientists, including a former head of the Atomic Energy Agency, have reportedly been taken out of action in car explosions that occurred in central Tehran. The international community has yet to determine exactly who is behind these incidents. But one message is clear: the technology you are pursuing will not be completed. At the same time, key facilities were successively targeted. The Centrifuge Center in Natanz, considered one of the core hubs of the nuclear technology development program, suffered a double strike. Satellite images showed that most of the complex had collapsed, making short-term recovery nearly impossible. The Israeli Air Force continued to expand its attacks to the complex in Isfahan, along with several technical centers specializing in dual-use material research and rocket launch platform development. In a separate development, Israeli intelligence forces are reported to have intervened in Tehran's strategic information system. One of the key units responsible for battlefield analysis and signal intelligence was disabled, causing Iran to experience an almost temporary loss of connectivity between regions. The peak of the campaign was a double strike on the headquarters of the regional special forces and the battlefield support units, 2 locations believed to be preparing retaliation plans. Israeli forces used specialized bunker-buster bombs, attacking simultaneously within minutes, causing a severe disruption to the entire regional coordination network. None of these attacks are random. They are designed like a strategic chess game where every move aims to weaken coordination, slow down response times, and create confusion within Iran's decision-making system. With no senior officers left and no one controlling the command centers, the entire system operates like an unmanned machine. Iran's reaction? So far, it remains a troubling silence. Some unofficial reports indicate that the top leaders have moved into underground bunkers in the northeastern part of Tehran. Notably, Israel knows exactly where they are, but they have decided not to take action, at least for now. Sometimes letting someone survive is the strongest message you can send, an anonymous source from the Tel Aviv area said. Analysts believe this is a rare combined campaign involving tactical airstrikes, targeted assassinations, and strategic electronic warfare, all occurring almost simultaneously. This leads to a troubling conclusion for Iran. The game is no longer under their control. While rescue teams in Tel Aviv continue racing against time to respond to the damage from the latest rocket attacks by Iran, a new reality is taking shape in Tehran. No place is considered off-limits anymore, and no individual is beyond reach. And that is only the second phase of the campaign that Israel has declared will continue until the threat is completely eliminated. In every modern conflict, preventing long-range attacks is always a top priority. This time, Israel has taken that advantage to a whole new level. They don't just intercept missiles in the air, they hunt the launchers themselves, right at the point of origin. In just a few days, more than 120 ballistic missile launchers, equivalent to about one-third of Iran's missile arsenal, were destroyed by precision strikes. Each vehicle carrying launch equipment, every mobile bunker, and every fixed launcher became a top priority target. But how does Israel pinpoint the location of launch sites in a vast country with challenging terrain like Iran? The answer lies in the close integration of ground intelligence networks, satellite surveillance capabilities, long-range drones, and especially absolute air superiority. Since establishing air superiority, the Israeli Air Force has deployed dozens of Hermes and Heron UAVs for continuous operations over Iranian airspace. These drones constantly monitor suspicious movement routes, open areas near military bases, and even launch sites disguised as civilian structures. Once a suspicious signal is detected, such as a TEL, or transporter erector launcher vehicle, leaving a storage facility, the target engagement procedure is activated almost immediately. The Iranian side did not remain passive. After the initial losses, they adjusted their launch tactics. Instead of concentrating in one large cluster, they broke it down into smaller groups, spreading out across multiple areas and firing in a dispersed wave pattern. However, this also meant longer preparation times and a higher risk of detection. An Israeli military report stated that it takes about 30 minutes on average to prepare a launch from a TEL. And with UAV surveillance operating around the clock, 30 minutes is more than enough time to identify, track, and make operational decisions. This advantage allows the Israeli Air Force to react in real time, meaning they don't wait until the missile has launched, but strike the launch platform as soon as the signal indicating imminent firing appears. Some footage from the scene shows the missile still on the launcher. When it was airstruck, the entire control team, launching equipment and ammunition were all eliminated in a single strike. Technical issues on Iran's side are also present. Losing one-third of the launchers has significantly slowed down the firing cycle. According to an analysis source, if Iran could initially launch 60 to 90 missiles per round, after the losses, that number dropped to about 40 to 50. More importantly, the reload cycle, which requires at least 4 to 6 hours, has become more vulnerable than ever. Israel has fully exploited that time window to carry out additional pursuit operations. Additionally, experts also point out a key factor. Not every launcher can be replaced immediately. Some specialized TEL models produced domestically in Iran involve a rather complex manufacturing process and use unique drive systems. This makes it impossible to compensate for losses in the short term. With each launcher lost, Iran not only loses its firing capability but also its mobility and tactical flexibility. Not stopping at mobile tells, Israel also targeted fixed launch sites and underground missile storage facilities. The Qamar base, which served as a coordination center and long-range weapon storage site in western Iran, was heavily attacked. Satellite images reveal that the entire area, once a complex of missile hangars and technical warehouses, is now reduced to blackened patches on scorched ground. The reinforced structures were completely destroyed by heavy concrete-piercing munitions, a type of weapon specifically designed to neutralize deeply buried, hard-target facilities. The psychological effect here really cannot be overlooked. Knowing that the launch pads could be hit even before firing has placed immense pressure on Iran's technical forces. There have even been reports of units refusing to deploy or requesting additional protective equipment, and that's caused delays in launch orders. Some satellite reports have even recorded previously active launch sites now abandoned, which indicates that efforts to redeploy have failed. Still, the threat remains. Iran's missiles from short range to long range still exist in large numbers. What makes them dangerous isn't just the missiles themselves, but also their speed, density, and the element of surprise in their launch. When the launch platforms are eliminated, the firing rhythm is disrupted. Israel no longer has to endure a massive barrage all at once but can instead respond step by step in a flexible manner to smaller and more manageable numbers. And finally, here's a pretty noteworthy detail. Israel's airstrikes on launch sites often happen just minutes before the rockets are fired. This has led experts to conclude that Tel Aviv may, in fact, possess extremely sophisticated real-time intelligence systems, possibly even coordinated with sources inside Iranian territory. The entire launchpad interception campaign, from surveillance and identification all the way to elimination, has transformed Israel's proactive defense strategy into one of the most successful examples in modern warfare. They just don't wait to be attacked. Instead, they strike the shooter's hand the very moment the bow is drawn. When Iranian airspace was filled with the roar of jet engines and the ground shook from precise strikes, it wasn't just the footprint of the Israeli Air Force that was present, it was also the shadow of a powerful allied nation standing silently but decisively alongside the United States of America. From the very first hours of the campaign, Washington took a clear stance. The U.S. president declared full and unconditional support for Israel's legitimate right to self-defense. This was not just a political statement, but also a concrete, swift action with far-reaching strategic impact. In just 36 hours, the Pentagon deployed 2 additional aircraft carrier strike groups to the eastern Mediterranean region, bringing with them hundreds of fighter jets, advanced Aegis air defense systems, and the capability to conduct wide-ranging precision strikes. Meanwhile, KC-135 and KC-46 refueling aircraft continuously operated in the skies, providing fuel to Israeli fighter jets on their deep missions into Iranian territory. This logistical support has enabled Tel Aviv to maintain a high frequency of airstrikes, an advantage no other Middle Eastern country possesses. In addition, U.S. reconnaissance satellites equipped with real-time imaging and multispectral analysis capabilities have been ordered to prioritize support for Israel in monitoring strategic targets in Iran. As a result, the Israeli Air Force can update target maps on an hourly basis, minimizing delays and achieving nearly absolute precision in their strikes. In particular, according to regional sources, the U.S. has also granted Israel immediate access to the CENTCOM Regional Integrated Defense Network, including early warning systems, ballistic missile tracking, and target designation signals. This is why many missile launches from Iran were detected just seconds after leaving their launch sites and were intercepted in time before reaching Israeli airspace. The presence of the United States carries not only military significance but also a powerful message of strategic commitment. At a time when the world is somewhat divided, Washington standing alongside Israel serves as a symbol of unity, not just for national interest but also for principles defending democracy and preventing the spread of dangerous weapons programs. More importantly, the United States is providing support not only militarily but also diplomatically. In the very early hours of the operation, American diplomats reached out to European allies, moderate Arab states, and the United Nations to make one thing clear: Israel is acting in self-defense, and all assistance aimed at ending the threats posed by nuclear and missile programs is necessary and justified. From the perspective of the Israeli people, the presence of the United States serves as a spiritual shield. In the most challenging moments, when air raid sirens sound in Tel Aviv or Haifa, they still feel that they are not alone. In the skies, underground, and across global communication networks, the US is there, not just a weapon but also technology. American experts, believed to have worked closely with Israel's engineering team, have optimized the launcher positioning algorithm, flight path analysis, and especially the probability of leakage within the interception system. The result? An interception rate exceeding 90%, while the number of rockets breaching the defense line has sharply decreased day by day. Observers note that Israel is the only country in the region capable of carrying out such a deep strike operation, but it would not be able to sustain that level of effectiveness over several consecutive days without logistic supplies and close coordination from Washington. Some sources from the Pentagon have even hinted at the possibility of deploying weapons capable of extremely deep penetration, types possessed exclusively by the US Air Force, if Iran decides to move its remaining strategic facilities to deeper geological layers. The close coordination between Israel and the United States extends beyond the Iran front. It also sends a message to the entire region. Any actions crossing the line will be met with a proportional response. Most importantly, the partnership between Tel Aviv and Washington is not only enduring but stronger than ever. Looking back on this campaign, perhaps what worried Iran the most wasn't the number of missiles destroyed, but the feeling of helplessness as the opponent took full control of the game. If Israel was the spear flying toward the target, then the US was the steady hand firmly holding the bow behind it. There were no alarm sirens, no radar detections, no interceptor missiles. All of Iran's defense systems, from the Khordad 3 and Bavar 373 to the S-300, remained motionless. This wasn't a technical malfunction, it was the result of a flawless strike by Israel's F-35 Myadir stealth fighter jets, marking the opening of an operation that Western analysts have dubbed the silent infiltration into the heart of Iran. We believe that no attack from a small country like Israel has ever caused such a strategic shock. By using specially upgraded F-35I stealth fighter jets equipped with integrated AI sensors, cyber warfare capabilities, and extended flight range, Israel was able to bypass Iran's entire multi-layered air defense system undetected. Honestly, this is not only a technical achievement, but also clear evidence of the absolute failure of Iran's defense doctrine against fifth-generation air forces, the F-35. I was not alone. Before the strike was launched, a series of low-flying reconnaissance UAVs penetrated deep into Iranian airspace, gathering data from radar and air defense systems. Immediately afterward, F-15S deployed a barrage of electromagnetic bombs and decoys to disrupt the control centers. Just minutes later, the F-35I appeared like a ghost. No radar signal, no supersonic sound, yet leaving massive holes in strategic targets. In Isfahan, the center for converting uranium into metal, the protective domes believed to be impenetrable were completely demolished. In Natanz, where thousands of centrifuges are operating, a series of smart bombs destroyed the command center, triggering an internal chain reaction explosion. Another strike targeted the missile and UAV depot in Tabriz, which stores the latest Shahed models. It was wiped out just 17 seconds after the F-35I launched the attack. Notably, none of the attacks left any electromagnetic signals, making it impossible for Iran to determine which aircraft, from where, and when they entered its airspace. Even when explosions rang out, Iran's air defense forces still waited for orders. Senior commanders lost communication. The coordination center in Thran became inoperative after being hit by the initial wave. In response to the wave of domestic outrage, Iran later claimed to have shot down an Israeli F-35 aircraft. However, there was no authentic footage of the wreckage, nor any communication signals from the scene. Instead, the images presented by Iran matched archival photos from Yemen, Syria, and even Ukraine. We believe this is a propaganda effort aimed at calming domestic anxiety rather than an accurate reflection of the battlefield situation. Regarding Israel, the Ministry of Defense neither confirmed nor denied the tactical details, but a close source revealed, not a single F-35I was shot down, all returned safely. If this is true, then Iran was attacked with stealth weapons using a multi-layered coordinated approach, and was unable to launch even a single missile in retaliation. We believe that this is, honestly, the biggest shock to Iran's security system. Not really the loss of weapons or uranium stockpiles, but the complete loss of control over the entire national airspace for nearly 2 hours. Israel has shown that in modern warfare, the winner isn't the side with more missiles, but the one that strikes where the opponent just can't see and can't respond in time. This time, Israel has done so on a scale that, well, no other country in the region has ever faced before. The campaign isn't over yet, but within the very first hour, the F-35 I did something that an entire generation of Western fighter jets only dared to test in simulations. It penetrated straight into heavily defended enemy airspace and returned without being detected by anyone. Behind Israel's unprecedented airstrike campaign, we believe there are two decisive factors: timing and silent support from the United States. It's really no coincidence that this operation took place precisely when Iran was on the brink of developing nuclear capabilities, nor is it accidental that the counterattacks clearly bear the marks of intelligence and technological cooperation with Washington. Since the beginning of the year, intelligence reports have repeatedly warned that Iran has stockpiled enough uranium enriched to 60%, just weeks away from reaching the nuclear weapons threshold in terms of technical capability. Meanwhile, research facilities such as Isfahan and Natanz have been continuously reinforced, aiming to initiate the conversion process to metallic form, the final stage in bomb manufacturing, as early as July for Israel. That is a red line. Once Iran possesses nuclear weapons, conventional deterrence becomes meaningless. Therefore, military action becomes the only option before Tehran crosses the threshold. We believe that choosing mid-June was not solely a decision made by Tel Aviv. In the weeks leading up to the campaign, numerous signs indicated that the United States had implemented indirect support measures. An Arleigh Burke-class destroyer was deployed to the eastern Mediterranean, equipped with the Spy-1 radar and the Aegis system capable of monitoring the entire airspace of Iran and its surrounding areas. American reconnaissance satellites are operating at lower than usual altitudes, collecting electromagnetic signals from Iran's military and air defense installations. The data is then shared with strategic partners. The Al Udeid base in Qatar, where the U.S. has its Gulf Air Command Center, has raised its alert level to level 2, allowing for emergency deployment if necessary to protect Israel or intercept retaliatory strikes from Iran. Although the Trump administration did not officially declare intervention, the president's statement that if Israel needs us, we will be there clearly indicates strong political support. This is enough to deter third parties, such as Syria, Hezbollah, or even Russia, from getting involved in the conflict. Additionally, Israel's use of a range of precision-guided bombs with high-resolution GPS data, such as the GBU-39 and GBU-53 Bravo, also demonstrates close technical coordination. These weapons require encrypted military positioning data, which only the United States has the authority to provide. In terms of timing, Israel also chose the exact moment when Iran was losing internal control. Many areas in Tehran and Isfahan had just experienced economic protests, weakening the government's ability to respond. At the same time, most of Iran's military leaders were attending a closed-door conference in Mashhad, creating an ideal opportunity for a surprise operation. We believe that it was the silent yet precise coordination between the two strategic allies, one directly taking action, the other ensuring support and providing technology, that created overwhelming dominance from the very first hour. This was not just a preemptive strike but also a lesson in the art of timing, striking when the opponent is off guard and you hold all the advantages. After Israel gained control of the airspace, the next phase of the Rising Lion campaign was launched, neutralizing Iran's entire nuclear and strategic missile capabilities. This was not just a series of airstrikes but a carefully planned sequence of actions developed over many years, based on precise intelligence, advanced guidance technology, and a deep understanding of the vulnerabilities of each facility. So, we believe the top priority centers on three key sites: Isfahan, Natanz, and Fordow. These are, critical links in the entire chain of Iran's nuclear weapons development. All three were attacked almost simultaneously with precision-guided munitions, a new generation of bunker-buster bombs capable of destroying underground targets with a margin of error of just a few yards. In Isfahan, the uranium-to-metal conversion center, which is actually the final stage in manufacturing nuclear bomb cores, was directly hit in its central operations area. Satellite images show that buildings originally designed with a dispersed layout to withstand bomb blasts were completely destroyed after a single attack, most likely by a GBU-53 Bravo Stormbreaker bomb. At Natanz, where thousands of IR-6 centrifuges are operating to enrich uranium to 60%, the strikes are not aimed at completely destroying the facility. Instead, they're designed to cause internal disruption by damaging the production line, blowing up the air conditioning system, and destabilizing the power supply, essential conditions for the centrifuges to operate accurately. Fordow, located deep within the mountains near the city of Qom, is considered impregnable because it lies beneath 260 feet of solid rock. However, reports from Western intelligence indicate that Israel used heat-sensing suicide drones, guided by signals from American radar, to precisely strike the ventilation shafts and entry points. In addition to nuclear targets, Israel also directly targeted the ballistic missile system, the backbone of Tehran's deterrent strategy. Facilities such as the Shahed Depot in Tabriz, the Missile Development Center in Garmsar, and the test launch site in Semnan were all destroyed within just 2 nights. In Semnan, a series of JDAM-guided bombs precisely struck the launch platforms and liquid fuel storage tanks, triggering a chain explosion visible from satellites over 370 miles away. One notable factor is how Israel employs real-time coordination between ground sensor systems, UAVs and satellites to execute precision strikes akin to surgical operations. For example, in Garmsar, after a reconnaissance UAV detected unusual movement at a mobile launch site, the data was immediately transmitted to the command center where an F-35-1 flying at an altitude above 39,000 feet was redirected within just 3 minutes. Not only targeting hardware, the campaign also focused on strategic human resources. According to reports, at least 17 senior nuclear scientists and more than 40 Iranian weapons engineers have been killed in targeted attacks. These personnel cannot be immediately replaced, as Iran's nuclear program relies on a very small number of individuals with deep expertise who have undergone years of training abroad. The consequence of these strikes is that Iran has virtually lost the ability to rebuild its nuclear and missile programs for at least the next 5 to 7 years. This is not only due to physical damage but also because the entire chain of technical expertise, personnel, logistics, and technology has been simultaneously destroyed. In fact, some sources report that certain enriched uranium materials were destroyed in the explosions, reducing the fuel stockpile below the critical threshold. We believe that with this campaign, Israel has not merely paused Iran's nuclear program, but has set it back to square one. In the long-term strategy, this is a decisive achievement, forcing Iran to lose nearly a decade to return to the position it was in before the attack, if they still have the capability, and if the international community allows it. In less than 100 hours, the security landscape of the Middle East has been completely rewritten. Iran, a country that once declared itself a regional superpower, now quietly faces a harsh reality. It has been overwhelmingly outmatched in strategy, technology, and operational speed. Meanwhile, Israel, with a population less than 1/10 the size, has successfully neutralized defense systems, struck at the core of Iran's nuclear infrastructure, and paralyzed its military command network. We believe the clearest sign of Tehran's weakening position is its weak and fragmented response. While military and air defense centers were destroyed, Iran could only retaliate with its familiar weapons: Shahed 136 drones, Fateh 110 missiles, and a few outdated short-range ballistic missiles. However, unlike previous escalations, this time nearly all of the retaliatory strikes were intercepted. Israel's multi-layered defense system, including Iron Dome, David's Sling, and Arrow 3, worked seamlessly to intercept and destroy over 95% of incoming targets before they reached urban areas. Only a few small drones managed to get through the defense network, but honestly, they caused minimal damage. Although Iran claimed to have delivered a proper retaliation, footage from Tel Aviv, Haifa, and Ashdod shows daily life just continuing as usual. No mass evacuations and no devastated areas like Iranian media have portrayed. In contrast, within Iranian territory, damage continues to be reported. Preliminary estimates indicate that at least 78 senior commanders from the IRGC and Quds Force have been killed or are missing, along with more than 150 military facilities, ammunition depots, and radar stations destroyed. Even more concerning for Iran is that its command, control, communications, and intelligence C4-1MI network has been nearly paralyzed. This has prevented defensive units from coordinating effectively and caused internal chaos that, honestly, lasted for several days following the initial strike. Meanwhile, Iran's leadership is, deeply divided. One faction supports a full-scale counterattack at any cost, even if it means activating proxy forces such as Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Hashd al-Shaabi. However, the other faction, which includes many economists and veteran military generals, warns that if the escalation continues, the risk of direct United States involvement in the conflict becomes, unavoidable. In that scenario, not only Tehran but the entire current power structure could be honestly wiped out. The role of the United States has become more prominent than ever. Although not directly involved in the fighting, Israel's precise and rapid preemptive strikes clearly reflect a technological collaboration with Washington. Many experts believe that Israel would not be able to see through Iran's defenses without real-time data from United States military satellites. Additionally, the presence of U.S. destroyers in the Persian Gulf, ready to intercept long-range missiles, has forced Iran to limit the intensity of its counterattacks. We believe that what started as a medium-scale military campaign, Rising Lion, has become a pivotal geopolitical shift. For the first time in decades, Iran has been pushed into a completely defensive position. Meanwhile, Israel, once surrounded by threats, is now in a proactive stance, holding an absolute tactical advantage. The consequences did not stop at the bilateral level. Iran's proxy forces in Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and, elsewhere, lost communication for several hours and did not receive specific instructions. Hezbollah had to halt all border combat operations. Armed groups in Iraq and Syria became passive. Several senior commanders were killed while attempting to establish new communication links with Tehran. On the other hand, the United States successfully leveraged the campaign to send a clear deterrent message to both Russia and China. Any adversary that continues to support Iran's nuclear program will have to reconsider their position at the United Nations. Although Russia opposed the campaign, it was unable to veto the new sanctions due to insufficient Allied support. China, which has been maintaining oil cooperation with Iran, was also forced to remain silent, avoiding a direct confrontation with the increasingly dominant US-Israel alliance. We believe the Rising Lion campaign is a textbook example of 21st century warfare, where information, speed, and technology matter more than sheer numbers. Israel succeeded in breaking Iran's strategic confidence and simultaneously demonstrated that, if necessary, a small nation can launch a preemptive strike against a much larger enemy, provided it knows exactly when and where to act.